Ever catch yourself thinking, man, I should be making better choices? Like you're smart, but your decisions don't always show it.
It's a feeling we all get sometimes.
Totally. So today we're diving deep into self-sabotage.
Using the book Smart People's Stupid Choices as our roadmap.
Exactly. Like how can smart people make such dumb decisions sometimes? What's the science behind it?
Well, the book dives right in by saying intelligence and wisdom aren't the same thing.
Okay, but like how, aren't they sort of the same thing?
Not really. Think of intelligence as processing power, like how well you think.
I can see that, like a really fast computer.
Exactly. But wisdom, that's more like the programming. It's the judgment, the experience.
So someone could be super smart, but without that experience, they might still make poor choices.
Exactly. The book even gives this example of like a brilliant investor who blows their fortune gambling.
Wow. So they had the smarts to analyze the market, but maybe not the wisdom to like control their emotions.
You're right. They fell into a classic self-sabotage trap.
Okay, wait. So there are different traps, like specific ways we mess ourselves up.
The book says there are 5 main ones, each with like its own psychology behind it.
Ooh, 5. All right, I'm already nervous. Hit me with the first one.
It's probably the most common one, the overthinking trap.
Overthinking. Oh, I know that one. Spending way too long deciding like what to order for dinner.
That's it. Smart people often overanalyze everything, getting stuck in their heads.
So they end up making no decision at all because they're too busy thinking.
And the book stresses that sometimes imperfect action beats no action.
Okay, so how do we escape this overthinking trap?
One thing they suggest is setting time limits for decisions. Force yourself to choose.
Like ripping off a Band-Aid, just get it over with.
Exactly. And also, trust your instincts a bit more. You've got experience. Use it.
Okay, so don't dwell on it forever and trust my gut more. Got it. What's the next trap waiting for us?
This one can be a bit sneaky. The ego trap?
Ego. You're saying smart people can be too, like, full of themselves.
Sometimes. They overestimate their abilities and can't admit when they're wrong.
Oh man, that I know everything attitude. It definitely sets you up for a fall.
And what's worse, it makes you ignore advice from others.
So you think you know best and shut down any feedback, even if it's helpful.
Precisely. The book really stresses the importance of humility here.
So being open to learning, even from people you might not think are as smart.
Exactly. And getting comfortable with the idea that you can be wrong sometimes.
We're all human after all, right?
Hmm.
Mistakes happen.
And admitting them opens the door to learning and growing.
Okay, so we've got watch out for overthinking and keep that ego in check. What's trap number 3?
This one might surprise you. The impulsivity trap.
Wait, hold on. I thought we were talking about smart people. Isn't impulsivity kind of, well, unsmart?
You'd think so, right. But sometimes smart people trust their gut too much, making quick, reckless decisions.
Like jumping without looking.
Totally. They mistake that strong feeling for careful consideration of all the consequences.
Oh, I can see how that could backfire big time.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we avoid this one? Should we ignore our gut feelings?
Not completely. The key is to slow down. Ask yourself, is this emotion or logic talking?
Give your brain a moment to catch up with your gut, basically.
Right. The book mentions this cool tool called the 1-0-10-10 rule.
1-8-10-10. That sounds intriguing. How does it work?
So, say you're about to send an angry email. Ask yourself, how will I feel about this in 10 minutes? 10 months? 10 years?
Whoa, okay, that really shifts your perspective, thinking about those long-term consequences.
It helps you make a calmer, more rational choice.
And sometimes, just waiting a bit before acting can do wonders, especially when it feels urgent, but isn't a true emergency.
Exactly. Okay, so we've tackled overthinking, ego, and impulsivity. What's next on our self-sabotage tour?
Lay it on me. I'm ready for the next track.
This one might be familiar to a lot of listeners. The procrastination trap.
Procrastination, the classic. But how does this one tie into, like, being smart?
Well, smart people often set super high standards for themselves.
They're perfectionists.
Exactly. And that fear of not meeting those standards, of failing, can make them just avoid doing anything at all.
They'd rather not try than risk messing up.
Sadly, yes. It's paralyzing. They don't fail fast, learn, and improve.
Oh, I've been there. Putting off a project because I'm terrified it won't be perfect.
The book suggests taking small steps and accepting imperfection. Just get started.
So break it down into manageable chunks instead of trying to do everything at once.
And remember, done is better than perfect.
It's about progress, not perfection. Okay, so we've got to fight that urge to procrastinate. What's the final trap?
This one might seem counterintuitive,
Outside.
about the emotional blind spot.
Emotional blind spot. How can smart people be emotionally blind?
It's not that they lack emotions, but they tend to downplay them in decision-making.
They prioritize logic over gut feelings and intuition.
Exactly. They make choices that seem logical on paper, but maybe feel off deep
And
down.
ignoring those feelings can lead you down the wrong path.
It's like navigating a maze with only a map, ignoring all the landmarks around you.
You might end up lost. So how do we overcome this blind spot and start trusting our feelings more?
The book stresses finding that balance between logic and emotion.
So use your head, but don't discount those gut feelings.
Precisely. Tune into those subtle cues. If something feels stressful or off, pay attention.
I think a lot of people, especially those who pride themselves on being logical, struggle with this.
It's a common misconception that emotions are irrational and should be ignored.
But they give us valuable information.
Ignoring them can lead to decisions that look good on paper but just feel wrong in the long run.
This has been eye-opening. So many traps to watch out for, even for smart folks.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
But don't worry, listeners. We're not leaving you hanging with all these traps and no way out.
In part 2, we'll delve deeper into practical strategies for overcoming these self-sabotaging tendencies.
We'll give you the tools to start making smarter choices that align with your true potential.
So make sure to tune in for part 2. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into self-sabotage. Last time, we uncovered those 5 sneaky traps that can trip up even the smartest folks.
We talked about overthinking, ego, impulsivity, procrastination. Oh, and that emotional blind spot.
And how, even though we know better, we can still fall into these traps.
Totally.
Yeah.
So now that we know what we're up against, how do we actually start making smarter choices?
Well, the good news is the book doesn't just leave us hanging with all these traps.
It's got to give us some solutions, right?
It does. It lays out some practical ways to escape those traps and make better decisions.
Okay, I'm all ears. Where do we start?
Well, remember that first trap, the overthinking one?
Oh yeah, getting stuck in analysis paralysis.
The book reminds us to set those deadlines for decisions and focus on progress over perfection.
Right, like don't let that need to be perfect stop you from doing anything at all.
Exactly. Sometimes you just got to trust your gut and go for it.
Imperfect action is better than no action. And what about that ego trap? How do we keep our egos in check?
The book really stresses humility, like actively seeking feedback, even from those you might not think are as smart.
Be open to learning from anyone, basically.
And also get comfortable with being wrong sometimes.
Admitting we don't know everything is tough but important, huh?
It is. It's how we learn and grow. Now remember that impulsivity trap, those quick decisions we make without thinking things through.
Yeah, jumping into the deep end without checking the water level.
The book suggests using that 1-0-10-sen rule to slow down.
Ask yourself, how will I feel about this in 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years?
Right. It's such a simple but powerful way to gain some perspective.
And it gives your brain a chance to catch up to those gut feelings. What about procrastination? Any tips for breaking free from that one?
The book reminds us to break those overwhelming tasks into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Baby steps.
And to remember that done is better than perfect.
Progress over perfection. Right, what about that last trap, the emotional blind spot?
Remember, it's not about ignoring logic altogether.
It's about finding that balance between our head and our heart, right?
Exactly. Listen to those gut feelings. If something feels off, there's probably a reason.
Trust your intuition. It's like having an inner compass guiding you.
So those are some quick fixes for each trap. But the book also goes deeper, offering more general strategies for smarter decision-making.
Okay, lay it on me. I need all the help I can get.
One big one is developing self-awareness, like really paying attention to your own decision-making patterns.
So doing a decision audit of sorts.
Exactly. Notice those recurring themes or situations where you tend to stumble.
And then you can start to develop strategies to, like, counteract those tendencies.
Exactly. Like if you know you're prone to overthinking, you can consciously set those time limits for decisions.
And practice trusting your gut more. All right, what else can we do to level up our decision-making skills?
Another key is cultivating a growth mindset, embracing challenges as opportunities for learning.
So, see those mistakes, not as failures, but as chances to grow.
Exactly. It helps you approach those tough decisions with more resilience and less fear.
I like that. It's like turning those setbacks into stepping stones.
And one more crucial thing. Build a strong support network.
Surround yourself with people who challenge and encourage you.
Right? People you trust to give you honest feedback.
Like having a personal board of advisors for your life.
Exactly. Bouncing ideas off others can give you valuable perspectives you might not have considered on your own.
So self-awareness, growth mindset, and a supportive crew. What else can we do to make sure our brains are firing on all cylinders when making those big choices?
Don't underestimate the power of taking care of yourself, both physically and mentally.
Oh yeah, because when you're running on fumes, you're not exactly thinking straight.
Exactly. Get enough sleep, eat well, move your body, and manage that stress.
All those healthy habits actually contribute to better decision making.
Absolutely. And if you're struggling, don't be afraid to reach out for help. Taking care of your mental health is crucial.
It's like sharpening the saw, so you can make those tough choices with more clarity and energy.
Speaking of sharpening the saw, never stop learning and expanding your horizons.
Keep that curiosity alive. The more you learn, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions.
It's like building a library of knowledge and experience you can draw from when faced with those tough choices.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. Those specific traps to avoid, and then these overall strategies for making smarter choices in all areas of life.
We talked about self-awareness, a growth mindset, building a support network, taking care of ourselves, and continuing to learn and grow.
It's a lot to take in, but it all boils down to being more mindful and intentional in our decision making.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination.
There will be bumps along the way for sure.
We'll make mistakes, but the key is to learn from them and keep moving forward.
So before we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious to hear your final thoughts. What are your biggest takeaways from all of this?
You know, what really struck me is how much emphasis the book puts on wisdom, not just intelligence.
Because being smart isn't enough, right?
It's just one piece of the puzzle. Wisdom comes from combining intelligence with experience.
And from being open to learning and growing.
Exactly. It's not just about what you know, but how you apply that knowledge and learn from your experiences.
That makes a lot of sense. And it actually leads to a pretty important question for all of us.
Doesn't it? If wisdom comes from both intelligence and the experience, what's one small step you can take today to gain more of both?
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Uh.
About what we prioritize, how we learn.
Definitely. It's like we often focus so much on being smart, but maybe we forget about that wisdom part.
Right, like knowledge is great, but it's how we use it, how we learn from those experiences
Yeah.
that really matters.
Totally. And that brings us back to those self-sabotage traps. Like even with all the knowledge in the world.
We could still trip ourselves up.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Everyone makes mistakes.
Oh yeah, even the smartest people.
It's part of being human. What matters is that we learn from those mistakes, right?
So it's not about avoiding mistakes altogether, but about using them as opportunities for growth.
Exactly. It's like those mistakes become stepping stones on the path to, well, making better choices.
And thankfully, we've got all these tools and strategies now, thanks to the book.
Right. From setting those decision deadlines to cultivating a growth mindset.
To building that supportive network and taking care of ourselves.
We've got a whole arsenal to help us break free from those self-sabotaging tendencies.
It's empowering, isn't it? Like we have the power to choose differently.
We're not just victims of our own bad choices. We can learn, adapt, and make better ones next time.
So listeners, if you're feeling discouraged, remember, you are not defined by your mistakes.
You have the capacity to learn, grow, and create a life that aligns with your true potential.
Don't be afraid to reach out for support too. Talking to friends, family, mentors, or even professionals,
It can make a world of difference.
especially when those tough choices come up. Having a solid support system can really help you navigate those tricky situations.
You know, as we wrap up, there's one quote from the book that really stuck with me.
Oh, let's hear it.
It says, "Intelligence alone doesn't guarantee good decisions. Wisdom comes from self-awareness, humility, and action."
Wow, I like that. It reminds us that wisdom isn't just about what's in our heads.
It's about how we use that knowledge, how we stay open to learning, and how we take action even when it's scary.
So, to everyone listening, embrace your intelligence, cultivate that wisdom, and take bold action toward the life you want to create.
Don't be afraid to make those choices, to learn and to grow.
And remember, every choice, even the not-so-great ones, is an opportunity for learning.
So keep choosing, keep learning, and keep moving forward.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of self-sabotage.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and feel empowered to start making those smarter choices.
Until next time.